Welcome back to a new video on this channel, and this occasion is the hybrid filter from Minimal Audio. Now, if you recognize the interface, it's because the filter is a standalone version of the synthesizer filter. If you like the synthesizer, which is a fantastic synthesizer, and I'll be covering that one soon, you will like this filter. Right, let me show you the basic controls. Right here you have your cutoff and your resonance. Right, all the way up, going all the way down. And I know that this is way too simple for you. We can add a tiny little bump right here. And we have the nice resonance. And as you can see, it's pretty resonant. And at some point, of course, if you do a little bit too much, it's going to clip right here. And you have a mode right here where you can enable a limiter, which is always nice. Okay, so I know that all of this is just way too simple for you. Right here at the bottom, you have the tune. This one, what it does is going to turn the cutoff. Instead of using hertz, is going to be using semitones, right? So if I play it back, it's pretty much the same idea, but now, you know where you're cutting. All right, which frequency, and of course, tones. Another thing that you get is going to be the spread. Right here, you can separate the left and the right speaker. So if I go to the right side, notice that this is just separating. And this, of course, just makes everything wider. Going to positives is more to the right, as you can hear, and going to the other side is going to be to the left. You also get a dry and a wet control. I'm all the way wet, so I can just, go down and bring more of the dry and just do a tiny little bit of the wet. I'm gonna go back to the default preset, and where this filter really shines is going to be with the morph and the different modes that you get. So in the case of the morph, with some, not all of the different filters, what you get, you can morph the filter. So if I play it back, you can move the morph and it will just, morph between the different types of filters. Now, the cool thing is that you have a lot of options. Some of the options will be just maybe a standalone low pass, so you don't have a morph option. But for example, if I go to morphing and I go to maybe, I don't know, scatter, something like that, I'm gonna be morphing, and notice that it gives you some very interesting options. Alright, so we can just maybe map this to a modulator and modulate it and get cool effects. Let's go to a different one. Right here, I'm gonna go to creative and maybe the snarl. Notice that sometimes when I go right here, it's just creating, it's just clipping. I'm gonna enable the limiting so we can avoid that, but still, it's maybe too much for the lower frequencies. To fix this issue, you get the low crossover. I'm gonna show it in a minute. But first, if you right click, you can do lock. For example, if I'm standing right here on the resonance and cutoff, I could lock the cutoff and then the resonance, and I could just maybe play it and go through different presets, but the cutoff and the resonance will not move. Even if I go to this one, which is a random preset, it will not make the cutoff and the resonance move. It's changing, of course, right here, this option, the tune, that's why the cutoff is moving, but in theory, it's just in the same place. Which, makes the lock super useful. Alright, let me show you how the low crossover works. If I play it again, maybe some of the frequencies, maybe on the low part, or maybe some of the frequencies right here, are just frequencies that I just don't want to affect. Maybe I just want to do something like that, right? But when I go here, the sound just suffer a little bit. And maybe I want to avoid this. And this is what you get the low crossover. When you enable this, whatever is going on right here will not be applied. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna maybe position the crossover right here, low band. And if I go over this line, notice that the filter, whatever is that we are doing, it goes down. And this is not a hard, on and off type of deal. It's going to smoothly go down on the effect, or the filter in this case. Now, if you use we use something a little bit more, or a little bit more complex, it's the same deal, right? I'm gonna go right here, and as we cross over to the other side, it's gonna attenuate the effect. And this is actually super useful because you can go maybe crazy on this, and you know that you're not gonna get that nasty resonance when you go to frequencies that you don't want to mess with. Now, another thing that you get is the mono lows. If I'm maybe putting it right here, and of course when you move it, you get the frequency. Maybe I'm gonna go. You can go all the way to 20K if you wanted to. So I'm gonna go say right here. So if I do mono lows, whatever is that is going on right here is gonna be monoized. So it's gonna be mono. If I go maybe all the way up, which is pretty much the whole spectrum, notice that everything goes mono. Right, so, and again, this is just like super helpful because maybe you have a sound and you don't want to affect the lower frequencies, especially when you do some spreading. Well, you can monoize what you don't want. At the right-hand side of the plugin, you have an envelope follower, and this works as an envelope follower. It will listen to whatever goes into this plugin and generate an envelope. Now that envelope is going to modulate something. In this case, you have the cutoff, which is going to modulate this. And if you go to the morph, it's going to modulate the morph. Now I'm going to be playing a tiny little clip I have ready for you. I'm going to be cutting some frequencies. So what I want to do, I want for the follower to react to whatever sound I'm playing back, and I want the cutoff to move following the notes. So this is going to be the cutoff mod. If I do a tiny little bit, we can see that it's kind of just doing it. If you want it to be more aggressive, you can be more aggressive. And notice that it's going up, so you're going to positives. You can go into negatives. Maybe I'm, again, too aggressive. Alright, so this is what you can do with the follower. But maybe I also want to modulate the morph. So maybe I could do something like that, and going up in the morph will make the morph modulate. It all depends on the, the type that you're using and how much you're doing right here. Now I'm gonna go back to nothing on the morph. I'm just gonna be modulating the cutoff. It all depends on your sound, what you're trying to process, and then the attack and the release. If I go all the way down on the attack, the reaction, how it's going to react, it's gonna be super fast. If I go slower, the motion is a little bit more smooth, right? I'm gonna go right here, and same with the release. When it's going back, it's gonna be really aggressive, or it's gonna be smooth. But it all depends on the material that you're trying to process. Okay, I'm gonna go quite quick, and it's going fast, down, or back. If I go up, it's gonna be much more, nicer or smooth. Organic, like I said, it all depends on whatever material that you're trying to process. You can double click right here and enter whatever values that you want, and it will just take it and do it. All right. Now then at the bottom you have the amp mod, and what I'm using right now, I'm going to turn it on right now, is going to be a test tone. Maybe I'm going to go up in gain. So this is a single tone, it's a sine wave, locked at maybe 287 Hertz. It's this tiny tone. If I go here and chop it, of course it's going to chop it. This is a filter. Now, when you go to the amp mod, what this does is going to generate some additional tones. This is what this does. As I go up, notice that some tones are going to appear. And all of this is just being generated from, from this tone. If I move the tone of the generator, I'm gonna maybe move it up, it's very reactive to whatever is that you're inputting. If I go up, we are on full amp mod, and whatever is that we do, when we move the cutoff, of course, this is going to move around the tone and just position on a different fashion. But again, at the end of the day, what this does is going to generate some additional tones based on whatever frequency that you are trying to process. I'm going to go back to default, but in this case I was using a single tone, which is pretty boring. Now I have right now an FM synthesizer, and I'm still going to be playing a sine wave. It's a little bit more dirty, as you can see, but just going up in the mod is going to give you this additional tones. If I go all the way down, just completely different. Right, so you could use this to add a little bit more of something to whatever it is that you're trying to process. And with the help of the tune, you can just find the sweet spot. And just get something else. I'm gonna go back to default and play that nice little chords that we had. So right here you have the input. It's going maybe a little bit too loud. I'm gonna go down in volume. There we go. So if you were going too loud, notice that right here it will let you know that you're clipping the input stage. But that's fine, I'm gonna go down. Now as you could guess, going up on the input is gonna be going harder, or you can go all the way down and you will be getting pretty much nothing. Now if I go down, or maybe just keep the input right here and go down to the dry, of course we get none of the process signal. But still, if I go down on the input, nothing will go through the processed one and you only get the wet. But if I go to the dry, I just, get nothing as well. So this is what you get this. If you click here or hover here, it's going to say input send mode. So if I click it now, it's going to work like, sending to an effects. It doesn't matter, the input is all the way down. I can go all the way wet, and of course we get nothing, because now we are hearing or listening to the process signal, and we are not inputting anything. So right here, I could just go to the input and drive it. And I know that I'm only going through the process signal. If I go down, is a blend between, the dry and the sent. Now, the cool thing, why this is useful, is because if we use the follower to do something, whatever it is that we want to do, I'm going to go all the way to the wet, we can use this input. Remember that the follower is very reactive to the sound that comes in. So if we modify the levels of the input, the follower will react a little bit different. So I'm going to be doing something like that. Maybe too aggressive. I guess that's fine. All right. So I'm going to go down, and notice that the input is just not super reactive. If I go up, it's more reactive. I'm gonna go to maybe formant just to give you an example. I'm gonna be playing it. I'm gonna be doing something like that. And I'm gonna spread this. And I'm gonna be maybe covering the low band. Now, how useful the low crossover is. So now I'm gonna be modulating this. And I'm gonna even do the morph. Now if I enable this and I go down, of course, we affect less. If we go up, we affect more. The whole point is when you have maybe something like this, maybe between dry and wet, and if I go down, is less, and if I go up, is just affects more. It's more reactive to it. So I'm going to be going a little bit more aggressive. Alright, so you could map this to maybe an LFO or something else, where maybe you don't want to affect the signals that much. You go down in the input, but when you want to affect it, you go up, and you get a modulation. Cool. Now the other thing that you get is going to be, I'm going to disable this for now, is going to be the output. Notice that you have this one, then you have the purple one, and then you have the orange one. So since, of course, when you do something like this, it's going to go really crazy, you might be clipping your output stage. So this, and notice that it's clipping right now. So this is no limiting. The purple one means limiting, and maybe a little bit of saturation. And the other one is going to be a harder type of limiting. It's just more aggressive. It all depends on what you want to do. Maybe always a good idea to have this enabled just in case. Alright, so this is what the plugin can do. And if you already know Current, which is the flagship synthesizer for minimal audio, which is, again, very, very good. You should check it out if you don't know it. This is a take from that filter. If you already know that filter, well, you already know this one. But if you want to use the same filter because you know it or you like it, now you can, right? So you can just install the plugin and process whatever it is that you want. In this case, I was not using Current. I was using Polysynth from Bitwig. Just, a different synthesizer. If you like all of this and you maybe learned something new, please like and subscribe. This channel is supported by viewers only. If you want to buy me a coffee to say thanks and help the channel keep going on, you can. You have links at the description for PayPal, YouTube Thanks, and Patreon.